let's go ahead. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna make some very brief comments, and then, you know, because Chris said he had an hour-long speech, he wants to lay down the law. On day one. You know, anybody in here know that Chris is a Marine too? Yeah, you all know that. Right? It's just coincidence. I've never met him before. Not true. This is really a distinct honor, a real pleasure of mine that we were able to convince the governor to have Chris join our team. And I'll give you some background on him, which will kind of spell that out to you and let you all know why, you know, I specifically recommended him to the governor's office. Chris and I, we were chatting, and we've known each other since 1984. You know, I was a captain in the Marine Corps, and he was a lieutenant. He was over on the USS Constellation, and I was on the USS Long Beach. I was on the last cruiser to have a Marine detachment on it, firing 5-inch guns. Both of our ships now are in mothballs.
Says something.
Yeah. Or you're driving them as Priuses and Hondas. One way or the other, they're gone out of the fleet. And so that kind of tells you how long we've had a personal relationship, because I have never been his commanding officer. I've always seen him from a different perspective. He has never worked for me. I've never written a fitness report, which is our report card, on him in that whole since 1984. I've only seen him as he's functioned in other organizations for other commanders. So I did not have the blessing of having him directly work for me. But in every job, every time I looked over, and whether it was in San Diego at the USS Long Beach, or in Hawaii, where we served in adjacent infantry battalions, or whether it was he was at headquarters Marine Corps, and I was down in Georgia guarding some very sensitive weapon systems, and he was the headquarters contact for me on guarding those systems, or whether I was a regimental commander and you were a battalion commander in somebody else's regiment, I didn't get you. And but I always saw him, and I knew his bosses, and they always thought highly of him. And as he progressed through his career, I was always the kind of the senior guy, but he was always over there outperforming one of his peers. And in 2003, he was in command of one of our really fine historic infantry battalions. I think he had 1st Battalion. And he was under the command of one of my peers, Steve Hummer. And they were ordered to Iraq, and in the very first wave. And it was just coincidental that 6 months before the march to Baghdad, I was my command time was up. And so I went over to the Far East to chase guys in the Philippines. Nobody knows about that. You got all the glory. You marched to Baghdad. I went to Zamboanga. Honest to God, I went to Zamboanga to chase Al Qaeda. If you can find it on the map, let me know. And meanwhile, you know, I'm watching. I'm inside the tent with some high security guys down in Zamboanga, the Philippines. And you know, we're always concerned for our Marines, our Marine buddies, and what their families are thinking. And I'm watching on the CIA kind of internet what you're doing. I got my eye on you again. And he led his battalion. By then, his battalion, the normal Marine infantry battalion, was about 950 Marines. By the time they pump them up to go into combat, I imagine you had about 1,200, 1,300 Marines under your charge, barreling down the road. And incredible combat. When you look at it, stand up. I mean, is that the epitome of a warrior? But he had America's finest in the lead in a hostile country. And they just did to perform, this is one of the magnificent headlines on the road to Baghdad, leading the charge. And that's why his boss is now a 3-star general. You know, and Chris was just, you know, magnificent in that. And he came home, made colonel, and then they put him at one of our most critical education institutes, the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, California, where we meld young men into being Marines. And they made him the opposite, the operations officer. And from which he retired just about 2 years ago, not quite, almost right. And I was really curious which American corporation he would take over. You know? And Ava was probably expecting to have her man at home. Right, Ava? I mean, look at this wonderful family that he's had to march off to war and deploy and go back and forth. You know, and I've seen these since this one was about knee-high to a carton of milk. You know? And so I've known the family. I think I'm trying to remember that first apartment you guys had at kind of Del Mar Heights, and that wonderful home, actually, right there in Del Mar Heights. You're still there? And are you going to tell him, like Sue told me, you know where to find me? And so we've asked the family to make, again, another sacrifice in coming up here and kind of doing like I am. You know, you come up here for a couple weeks, you fly home. He's got a good brother and sister-in-law here from San Jose. They understand these things. We, and I just think that we have just an utterly super, what I didn't mention it, after the first shooting ended in May, you know, the Mission Impossible, the Mission Accomplished signs went up, which became a bad political football, right, because the war extended for several years. But we put Chris down in Najaf. We put him in this province in Iraq. We said, okay, I mean, the initial combat was over, okay, the initial combat. I mean, it was, you know, by the time I got back from Zamboanga and rejoined the Marine fighting outfit, the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, it would explode again in 2004. But right after the march to Baghdad, things looked reasonable, but we had to try to put Iraq back together. And so they said, okay, you're going to be the governor of Najaf. That's the equivalent of being, you know, Governor Bryant. So they said, Lieutenant Colonel, you're the governor. And you got a few Sunnis over here, you got some Shiites over here, they want to kill each other. So make sure they don't do it, okay? And kill as few of them as you can, okay, in the process of keeping the peace. And so for several months, he was in fact pulling these factions together. And it actually worked under his reign before some politicals started making some terrible mistakes. Which led us down to, you know, the war that we had until we pulled our last troops out just a couple of years ago out of Iraq. But under his reign, he actually brought peace amongst Shiites and Sunnis. And we didn't have the car bombings that we even have today in Iraq under his reign. And I said, if there's somebody that can pull our environmental community to get us Tesla developed in the proper way, and to make peace and still get harmony and achieve our objective, anybody who can get the Sunnis and the Shiites in the job Iraq to not kill each other could do that. And that's why, you know, I thought he'd be a great fit. And he carries no baggage. You know, we usually don't declare our political parties Republicans or Democrats. You know, we keep that silent in the military. And so when they ask us that question up here during the interview process, we just go, top secret. Something that's a tradition here as it is in the military. And that's the oath of office. It reminds us, I think literally every time you promote up, you should have a ceremony like we do in the military for all ranks, whether it's private to PFC or second lieutenant or first lieutenant. We have a ceremony in which we take the oath in front of our peers. And that reminds us why we really serve, okay? And who we really serve. And so before you get to speak, we're going to redo that oath. If you'll step up here, Chris Conlin. And this oath is very similar. It adds a word or two that we don't have in our oath. But so I'll try my best to recite it. If you raise your hand and repeat after me, I state your full name.
I, Christopher Conlin,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and defend
to support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I bear true faith and allegiance
and that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this oath freely,
That I take this oath freely,
without mental reservation,
without mental reservation
without purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of which I'm about to enter.
of the office of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, the Deputy Director of Off-Road Vehicles.
Well, thank you so very much, sir. I'm completely humbled. General, thank you so much for that introduction. And particularly, thank you for putting me on the course to getting this position and all your support over the years. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a pleasure to be back working with you and working for you. Thank you to the State of California. Thank you to the Governor and his faith in me, and all those that put me up for this position and certified me and interviewed me and did everything they could to get me into this position. I've had a lifetime dedicated to service, and I don't intend on changing that. All I did was add a few words to an oath that I've said over and over again for 30 plus years, and that is being dedicated to the people of this country, being dedicated now to the people of this state. And everything I can do for you and for them, I will put within my power and my full dedication. Thank you to my family. Obviously, Ava and the girls, this is going to take some sacrifice again. That word has come up over and over again, and believe me, I understand. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you, and those that aren't here right now, and trying to do the best we can to take this phenomenal program, this concept of combining people's recreation, people's access to the greatest resources in the world, and maintaining those resources and keeping them forever so that everybody can enjoy them. Thank you. Looking forward to working and meeting every one of you. And please, please work me hard, because I'm here for you. Thank you very much.